Well, everybody, it's the next day and I'm back at it. And last night it was already getting dark when I was out here. And what I did was I got some spray cleaner, some of that 3M foaming engine degreaser, and I sprayed and used a toothbrush and cleaned up this this area. Just make sure I get this all in frame here. Essentially right there. That was so full of grease I couldn't see anything. And the problem was I can't get the steering column to come out. The shaft seems to be one piece. I can't get that outer tube out of there. And I can't remove the valve. I disconnected all of the hydraulic lines. And I can't remove the valve because the shaft is still attached. And the shaft is going up through the column and the column won't move out. So I realized there's got to be some way to uncouple that. So I cleaned it all up, and what I see is there's definitely a big nut right there. I don't know. I have no idea what's going on as far as how this is supposed to work. So today I've got a big wrench, and I'm going to put a pipe wrench on there and see if I can't turn that nut and see what happens. Alright, so I've repositioned my tripod, so hopefully you guys will be able to see what I'm up against here, but can't promise I'm not going to be constantly inadvertently in the way of the shot, because I've got to climb down inside between the loader arms into this little compartment. And there's not a lot of room, to say the least. I don't know whether or not my leg is in the way of the camera shot right now. If it is, I apologize, but I'll probably just end up editing this out. Alright, so if I try and turn that nut, obviously the whole column just turns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab on, I'll try to grab on above that spot. Pipe wrench. And that does turn. Alright, so that nut unscrews. And with a little luck, unscrewing this nut is all that I need to do to get this steering shaft to pull out. So if I can get the steering shaft out, then I know, or I feel confident I can get the valve out. So my leg, so you can see what I'm doing. Like you see, I'm turning this nut. What just sounded like a wet fart was not me. I just want to make sure you know. That's just because I got the hydraulic lines off. As I turn this shaft, it sounds like somebody having an accident. Okay, the nut is off at this point, so the question is, what did the nut do? Did the nut just tighten something to keep it locked? In other words, will this pop off now? Yeah, that's what it does. That's a spline shaft, and the steering shaft slips over the spline shaft, and the outside part here has probably got slots in it that when you have this nut tightened, act to actually keep it locked in so it doesn't pull out on you. Well, what I've just done right now is I've just pushed this whole thing down and exposed. I can now see the splines, so I'm on the right track. If I can, let's see, I think now if I get this, if I push this tube back down, tube down and exposed the shaft. What I'm doing now is I'm putting the nut that held the steering wheel on back onto the shaft to give me something to grab onto, because I think, not positive, but I think I might be able to pull that out now. Ooh. What? I can't hear you. Yeah?
I have to go to my files and give me a shot again today.
I thought that's what you said, but I couldn't be sure. That's fine.
You pick up the boys on time?
Yeah, she gets home at 3:30, so I'll just make sure I'm there for like shortly after she gets home. And this should be a quick job, like 30 minutes.
Okay.
That's why I thought I'd have time to go to the... All right. Oh, ow, 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 ow! Oh, you son of a... Well, my hands are good and black. I just wiped them off with this rag, but they were as filthy could be. Basically like that, because I've been grabbing a hold of that valve, which is very dirty, and moving it every which way I can think of that I can get it to move to try and get it out of there, thinking that it's almost like a puzzle, thinking that there's some combination of ways I can turn it that it's going to actually clear everything that's in the way. And so far nothing's working. And I can't remove this cross bracket because it's welded to the side here. So this side of the dashboard actually is just moving up and down freely, and I can see now that what's supposed to hold that in looks like it used to be bolted down to something that's not even there anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unbolt the bracket for the transmission, or the reverse-o-matic or torque-o-matic, or whatever they call that thing, the filter for that. I'm going to relocate, just unbolt that, put it off to the side, and I think maybe I can slide it out the bottom that way if that's not in the way. It won't fit through the top no matter how much I try, and to add insult to injury, that damn column just keeps sliding down, and every time I slide it up into position it wants to slide back down on me. Which I guess, let's see, I could probably stop that from happening by just simply putting a wrench or something on that. Well, I think it's not going to be in my way now if I go out through the bottom like I plan on doing. So I wanted to reposition the camera so you can maybe see some of the fun. I also had to come out anyways because I had dropped my other 1/2-inch wrench, and I need 2 1/2-inch wrenches, one to hold the nut and one to loosen the bolt, 2 of which are used to hold this filter in place. Once again, I'm probably completely blocking this view, but where was I? What was I going to try and do? Oh, actually, that doesn't have. Oh, I was looking at the wrong. After all that, turns out I didn't have to go get this other wrench. I only need the one, because these bolts that hold this filter to the bracket actually thread into the bracket. They're tapped holes. So that sounds like somebody's house alarm is going off somewhere. Now I hear siren. Now for me, I would show up with the alarm off. I mean, my siren not blaring. I mean, whoever tripped that alarm, if it is a real break-in, they probably skedaddled as soon as the alarm went off. Seems almost like it's less about actually apprehending the individual and more about just trying to scare them off. Yeah, maybe I'm a little cynical about that. I don't know. I apologize if I've offended anyone with my politically charged remarks. Well, because I got to undo a line on this thing anyways, even though I was trying to avoid disconnecting the lines. Because one of these two lines is a flex line, but the other line is a rigid line. Alright. Almost there. Okay, transmission filter removed. Or moved out of the way. I'll go back into the grabby, gritty, grungy grabbing of this thing. I'm trying to get it out of here. Are you kidding me? Come on. What crap is this? Oh, hope I don't need that wrench. It just fell. Oh, you son of a gun! Alright, now I'm getting angry. Where's that screwdriver? And it can stay. Oh, I think I got it. Oh, you bastard. Stupid valve. That's what my hands look like when I get done. This rag is so dirty now, it's only moving the dirt around. It's not even cleaning my hands anymore. Alright. Ow. Dope. Ow. Oop. It's heavy for such a small valve. Can't really see much now, but there's the spline shaft. There's a little pilot shaft on the top that sticks out the top, probably to help guide that other one into position when you're putting it back together. This is all the grime and grunge and dirt. That on the top there, clean it up, but maybe there's a snap ring, but that's probably where the seal is. I think this is called a hydrometer or hydromotor. I think that's what Oliver called this type of steering valve. And depending on if it's an early or a late one, apparently it has a quad seal on the top there. That could be the fault could be the responsible party for my leak. What alarms me is that one of the bits of advice that was given to somebody with this problem, I did finally find something about this. They were told that if it was an earlier version, they were better off just replacing the whole assembly with a Charlene, like an Orbitrol or whatever. And if it was a later version, that you just replace the quad seal, or I guess, or something. I don't know. So I think what I'm going to do now is get this thing in the parts washer and get a lot of this grunge off of it, so I can see what I'm dealing with. All right, about now you're probably wondering, what's with the box of cornflakes? Well, it has no practical purpose other than being an empty box that I grabbed out of the trash, because I could just take this right on down to the parts washer and throw it in there and let it soak, then come back and scrub it. But before I do that, I'm going to take one of my old putty knives and scrape off these big, heavy deposits of goop that are on here, because I can shovel out something like that. Oop, that's that much less dirt that's going to end up settling to the bottom of my parts washer, resulting in a blanket of sludge that's going to have to be cleaned out at some point. And I'm sure there's already plenty of it down there, but I might as well take care of this much, at least while I can. The other thing is, I don't really want to submerge this thing in the parts washer. I'm going to keep it on the upper tray and work with the hose at rinsing this off, because I don't have any pipe plugs to plug these ports, so I really don't want to go all hog wild crazy getting parts cleaning fluid into the internals of the pump. That was nice clean hydraulic fluid that was leaking out of those ports. I mean, it's actually ATF fluid, believe it or not. The old Oliver manual actually calls for, I think it either calls for 10 weight motor oil with a special additive you buy and you add to it. And I think the additive actually has to do with like anti-corrosive properties and things like that. And nowadays, those additives pretty much are already in the various fluids in that. But I guess back then that was a common thing. Just use 10 weight or whatever motor oil it called for, and then add an additive to it. Because back then the motor oil was just motor oil. It was pretty much, didn't have all of these friction modifiers and anti-corrosive things and yada yada yada. Anyways, but the other choice, if you didn't have that, was automatic transmission fluid type A. I think it was type A. I don't know, type whatever. Which I went down and I don't know if I found it on the internet or